The fees, as we look at the fee increases, solid waste fee is going to go up basically 78 cents a month. The water fee, roughly $4.30 a month, and stormwater, 47 cents a month.
Well, you heard it there, more than $4 extra every month. That's how much Charlotte Water is planning to increase the average customer's bill starting in July. These numbers, part of this week's budget proposal by Charlotte's city manager. But as we discovered, the agency wants to raise rates after it overspent in recent years. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth conversation. I'm Nick Sturdivant. That's our own Nate Morabito, investigative reporter for WCNC Charlotte. You've been looking into Charlotte Water for some time now. First, thank you for being here. We'll get to the rate hike in just one moment, but let's start with your investigation. Now, Charlotte Water has delayed, I had to read this twice because I couldn't believe it, 9 projects. Tell us about that.
Yeah, 9 major projects. Thanks for having me. So, we started investigating this a couple months ago. We knew there were some financial challenges happening at Charlotte Water. That was the information we received. And we started digging into it. And for a long time, Charlotte Water would not tell us how many projects they had kind of deprioritized, the names of those projects, and we just recently received those. 9 projects in all, and these are major projects because we're talking about millions of dollars in spending. Charlotte Water actually had to cut $100 million in spending in the middle of this year, more than $100 million. And there are some thoughts that they're going to go over budget by $60 million this year as well. And this has been a trend in recent years. I know we'll talk a little bit more about that. But when you're about to raise people's rates and you are overspending, we felt it very important that the public find out about that. And we purposely got this on air before the city manager made his proposal Monday night because we just feel like people deserve full transparency. If you're going to raise my rates, you should at least have to answer to your budgetary practices.
Our job is bringing things to light, but is it fair to say Charlotte Water kept this in the dark?
Well, it depends who you ask.
Yeah.
Number one, Charlotte Water will tell you they've been very transparent with city council members. One city council member, Tijuana Brown, told us the specifics that we found out. She was never told that information. And I know the public has not been communicated, the agency has not communicated this information to the public very specifically like we're doing. And so we just feel like you deserve to know the full story because you are going to have a say in the budget process in the coming weeks and months. And we believe City Council deserves a full story too. And one City Council member told me they're going to start digging into this now as well after we alerted them about it.
Before we get to that, we talked about it, and you touched on it earlier. We talked about the overspending. How much when we talk about the overspending, how much?
When I first heard this number, I was like, are you sure?
Is it correct?
$168 million in big capital projects since 2021. Charlotte Water's own records that we obtained show they've overspent by $168 million. And remember, I told you there was talk, projections that they could go over budget by another $60 million this year, $228 million potentially since 2021.
Wow. And we actually heard from Charlotte Water's deputy director. Listen in.
We have spent more than our original budgets with the introduction of a number of new projects. There certainly have been cost increases, especially over the last 4 years for all of our projects. It has forced us to put a sharper pencil on some of our other capital programs. As you and I have discussed in the past, there have been a few projects that we have delayed in order to stay within our overall capital budget, and we'll continue to do that as we have in the past.
Other than inflation, what other reason would you go over budget?
Okay, so Charlotte Water says inflation for one,
Yeah.
Also more government regulation. Government makes new rules that you have to follow. It costs money, they say, to meet those requirements. Also, the cost of borrowing money, they say, has gone up. So you add all that, plus Charlotte's growth and the need to make sure you're meeting the needs of the growing community, they say just requires more money. And they are planning to pass that cost on to you and I.
I want to bring back City Council. You mentioned City Council. How involved are they in all of this? That's as someone who is new to Charlotte, I have that question.
So last month, Charlotte Water presented basically this proposal to a committee. This is a budget committee that has a handful or so council members that are involved in that. They hear generally what's happening there. But in some ways, from what I'm gathering from people that I'm talking to, it really takes you as a council member saying, well, give me the specifics. Break that down for me. Asking the exact questions that we've been asked instead of just handing it over and saying, hey, by the way, this is what's been happening specifically here. And we spent 2 months trying to get the exact numbers. It was not easy. There was a lot of vague conversations. And thankfully, we received a leaked video from an internal meeting that really kind of explained the severity of the situation there. That really was able for us to say, this is a problem. Internally, they're concerned about this. And the deputy director did say they are concerned. It's his job to be concerned. But they don't want to overly alarm people either. But I think people will be alarmed when they see how high that rate increase could be.
And you did get a chance to speak with a city council member. Let's hear from her.
They did not tell you they paused 9 projects.
No, I don't know anything about pausing of 9 projects. Nate, this is my first time hearing about pausing of 9 projects.
But you spent 3 hours with them today.
I spent 3 hours with them today talking about the budget, talking about the money, talking about the increase, talking about where the money goes, and how they went and asked the project managers, the leaders in the organization to project where the money is going to go. And if it's over in any organization structure, we got to make sure that we understand where the money is going. And if we don't understand where the money is going, something's got to be cut. You know, I've never heard about 9 projects being cut, but if you overspend and you need to cut, we got to cut somewhere.
And that was Charlotte City Council member Tijuana Brown. I just want to get your reaction. When she said she had no clue, I want to get, like, you're asking this question. What's going through your head at that point?
So let me kind of set you up with this. We had kind of initially talked to Council Member Brown about concerns that were raised to us. And as we got closer to getting ready to air our story, she says, you know what, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'd like to tour Charlotte Water with leadership and get a better understanding, in fairness. And so she spent 3 hours with Charlotte Water leadership. And she tells us Charlotte Water did not share that kind of information. And to me, you would think, look, if I'm about to do a story, she knows that I'm about to do a story, Charlotte Water knows I'm about to do a story, that maybe you might want to kind of reveal some of the details to at least this council member, because I know other council members are now planning to ask questions as well. I was just kind of shocked that that information's not shared. But again, you know, there's so many agencies within the city of Charlotte that I'm sure it can get overwhelming. But what Councilmember Brown told me, she said, I want all the information. Not some of the information, I want all of the information. She says she didn't get it.
And she looked like she meant business, too.
She did, too. That's right.
How will these delays impact customers?
So the goal, Charlotte Water says, is to not impact customers at all, particularly existing customers. They say that pausing these projects, there won't be an impact. And the hope is for future customers, there won't be an impact or a delay. But I will remind you, just in February, we ran an investigation about a rise in the number of sewage backups and blowbacks into people's homes because they're not inspecting all the lines as frequently as some people would like, displacing homeowners. So clearly there are maintenance concerns with the pipes, the existing sewer system alone. You have to wonder, when you're tightening the budget, what's going to be the impact to that? What's going to be the impact to the water leaks that may be on your street? Those kind of things run through my head, at least.
Yeah, and that brings us back to Monday's presentation. I want to read this to make sure I get this correct. A 5.75% increase in fees for folks that use Charlotte Water. I want to ask you this. Is this a normal increase?
Well, not compared to the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It is substantially higher than the prior years, but Charlotte Water will tell you this has been a growing problem, and this has kind of hit the fever pitch this year as far as how kind of concerning it is to get the rates high enough in a reasonable way, they say, in order to balance the priorities and what we expect as a community, but also pay for that.
Well, WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman caught up with 2 city council members Monday to get their thoughts about this increase. Let's take a listen in.
So when we talk about what's most most important for this upcoming budget cycle, we have got to maintain our city services. The bottom line is we need our emergency services through resources and our infrastructure. We need to make sure that we've got our water, that we've got our sewer, because when those things shut down, our city shuts down, and those are the things that absolutely cannot drop.
The fees we tend to look at from time to time in terms of cost recovery and stuff like that. So how much do the activities cost in respect of which we levy those fees, and what percentage of the total cost are we recovering from the fees? So I'd need to hear from the affected parties to understand the impact of that. But generally, there is a conversation about fees, and I didn't see anything really radical on that one.
I guess it's a big question on a lot of folks' mind, including myself. What's next?
So we're kind of just in the middle of the budget process right now. So people at home, if you live in Charlotte, if you're a Charlotte Water customer, which those people don't just live in Charlotte, you can reach out to city council members and express your thoughts. Are you okay with this? Are you not okay with it? You know, at my house, for example, we don't go over budget ever.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have that ability to do that. And so you could hold your government accountable, but that requires, obviously, that some things would be cut. And I think that's where the real issue is here. How do you balance the needs, but also make sure it's affordable for people? And you're talking about, just for Charlotte Water, more than $4. Plus you heard solid waste, plus you heard sewer, plus they're proposing potentially a property tax increase that would be about more than $50 a year. I mean, that adds up for people that are already struggling. And I know they don't want to have to do that to people, but I think they're at a real critical point of trying to decide what does the future look like for the city? What do we believe is important moving forward? Some
important dates as far as the budget. Public hearing is May 13th, and a final budget vote is June 10th. Nate, thank you so much for joining me here in studio, always doing the work for the people here in Charlotte. And you can find more of Nate's investigations right now inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app.